8 years ago, I relocated to a new city. Following years of work at my company, I was promoted to a managerial position and transferred to a branch office. Although the company provided accommodation, I found it uncomfortable to share living space with someone else, so I looked for a studio apartment instead. Fortunately, there was a place I liked near the company, so I immediately signed the contract. It wasn't long after I moved in. One day, I was relaxing after coming home from work when I heard a piercing scream of a woman from outside. Wondering what was all about, I rushed outside to find out. There, I found a woman from next door, brandishing an umbrella in the air, as if she were trying to chase away something and shouting before hastily rushing back into her apartment. What's going on? I wondered. It was strange. I cautiously approached the front of her door, but then, oh my, what's this foul smell? I looked around, and there was rotten food lying on the floor. It had been left unattended for so long that there were flies buzzing around. What's all this? Bewildered by the scene, I questioned if I made a mistake moving into this building with such a crazy neighbor living next to my apartment. As I entered back into my apartment, trying to shake off this uncomfortable feeling, I could clearly hear the people talking from the neighboring apartment through the wall.
What do you think he is doing now? Sleeping or not sleeping?
Hey, you think the new guy next door is an idiot?
At first, I thought they were talking among themselves, but when I listened carefully, it wasn't about them. It was about me. As I started to get angry, the voices stopped. It must have been an hour. I was texting my girlfriend when I started hearing voices from the next door again through the wall.
Nobody home?
I think he left already.
Hey, why don't you go check?
No, you go!
Then, I heard the window opening. What's going on? Instinctively, my eyes were drawn towards the window connected to the neighboring apartment. At that moment, behind the window screen, I saw someone's eyes staring right at me. I instinctively jumped back. Not only were they eavesdropping on me, but they were also peeking through the window. Fear and anger rushed over me. I couldn't take it anymore. I immediately headed towards the next door. No matter how many times I knocked, the door remained shut, and everything was eerily quiet. After continuous knocking, the door finally opened, and a woman with a stern face appeared. She bluntly asked what was going on as if nothing were happening. I confronted her about both of them talking behind my back and even her boyfriend peeking through my window, violating my privacy. Her response was firm denial, insisting she lives alone and there was nobody else in her apartment. Then she hastily shut the door on me and went back inside, leaving me speechless. I clearly heard a man's voice, but she confidently claimed to live alone. But the problem didn't end there. Once I started to become more aware, it seemed like my attention was solely focused on the next-door neighbor. Their voices became louder and clearer. From the loud talking and laughter to the irritating noise of opening and closing windows, it became unbearable. One day, my head was pounding and eventually I fell sick, so I had to take some time off. My girlfriend offered to take care of me. I appreciated her kind gesture, but I was worried that I might pass the cold to her, so I told her to go home. Not long after she left, I heard voices from the next door starting up again.
Is he alone? Now's our chance.
Just get him already. It'll be fun.
I couldn't stand it anymore, so I rushed back to the next door. Why are you doing this to me? You were just talking behind my back with a guy. Just like last time, the woman pretended not to know anything and claimed there was no man in her apartment. Her response made me even angrier, so I pushed past her and entered her apartment. At that moment, I thought to myself, it would have been better if there really had been a man there. What's this? There was only a candle lit in the empty apartment. No furniture, nothing. But what was even more eerie was that one side of the wall was completely covered with talismans. I asked what those talismans were for, but instead of answering, she asked me if there was anything strange going on in my apartment. Then she continued with her strange account. A few days ago, on a rainy afternoon, she returned home from outside and before entering her apartment, decided to leave her umbrella in the hallway to dry. Just as she was about to open it and place it in the hallway, a dark figure appeared out of nowhere and stood in front of her. She instantly knew it wasn't a person and hurried to go back inside, but the door was locked. Meanwhile, the figure started approaching her. In panic, she fumbled with her keys while fending off the figure with the umbrella, finally managing to open the door and get inside the apartment. Now I understand why she appeared waving her umbrella in the air. She was fending off that sinister entity. Shortly thereafter, I went over to her and knocked on her door, complaining about her and her boyfriend talking behind my back. That's when she felt a strong intuition that the entity she saw had entered my apartment. The talisman she had placed on our shared wall and the offerings left outside the door were meant to prevent that dark entity from entering her apartment. Her account sounded so absurd that it was hard for me to believe, but it didn't matter anymore because she said she was too scared to remain in the building and would be moving out the next day. Well, that woman doesn't seem to be in her right mind, but it's fortunate she's moving out tomorrow anyway. If she moved out, the noise would stop. The next day, the woman next door had indeed moved out, and just as I expected, the noise stopped. A month had passed. I had just returned from my 3-day-long business trip. As I approached my apartment, those familiar voices reached my ears.
Why isn't he back yet? I'm bored.
Wait, I think he's back.
What? Those people again? It's really getting on my nerves. However, upon closer listening, the neighboring apartment seemed quiet. As I moved closer to my own apartment, I realized that the voices were actually coming from within. Wait a minute. Does this mean what the woman next door said was true? Taking a deep breath, I opened the door of my apartment. There was nobody inside, of course, and no voices could be heard. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking, okay then. What was that all about? There was nothing there as I looked around, but then, when I glanced at the wardrobe, the door creaked open slightly and a hand slipped out before retreating back in. What's going on? Am I seeing things? It must have been my imagination, I thought, turning around only to find a figure standing right in front of me. Those chilling eyes I had seen from the window. What was even more unsettling was that it spoke with multiple voices, alternating between them.
How can I kill you?
Let's give him a slow, painful death.
No, how about an extremely quick death like a guillotine?
It wasn't just two voices, a man and a woman. It had multiple voices.
What? You thought it was just the two of us?
Without hesitation, I bolted out of my apartment, eventually quitting my job and returning to my hometown. Since then, I haven't heard those voices again. But the curiosity still lingers. What on earth was that?